High among the mist-shrouded peaks, in a valley folded between ancient mountains, sat a village so remote that few maps marked its existence. Here the land was green but nervous, the soil threaded with old roots and older secrets. The villagers, a hardy and superstitious folk, measured their lives by the rhythm of seasons, by the flicker of lanterns in the early dusk, and by the trembling ground beneath their feet, a tremor that seemed to shudder through their lives with greater urgency each year. It was here, among the warped fences and tilting stone houses, that a stranger named Elias first appeared. He arrived on a morning laced with rain, a satchel heavy at his side and his eyes sharpened with the alertness of exile. It took days before anyone learned his name, months before anyone trusted it. Elias spoke with a measured kindness, soft but attentive, as if weighting every word against the silence of the mountains. He was not received warmly at first. Outsiders were rare, and their mountains had a memory for trespasses. But then came the day when a child, bold with the fearlessness only the very young possess, chased after a wayward goat into the edge of the forest. A wild animal, desperate and starved, lunged from the shadows. The village froze at the scream. But Elias ran, faster than fear, with a branch brandished like a blade. He fought off the beast and carried the trembling child home. By nightfall, the story had wound itself through every home, mingling with the low voices and guttering candle flames. After that, the village grudgingly widened its circle. They watched Elias with curiosity, lingering on his strange instruments, his notched books, his habit of talking to himself as he wandered the fields. Rumors bloomed. Some said he was a doctor, others a scholar. A few whispered the word scientist, as if it were both an enchantment and a threat. But when the next tremor came, and yet another the week after, it was Elias who measured the cracks, who soothed their panicked cattle, who brewed calming teas from herbs, and taught them how to brace their homes with rope and timber. "We have always endured the quakes," the eldest lamented, her hands knotted like driftwood. "But the crops are dying now. The earth is angry." Elias listened, then walked the failing fields. He scraped at the dirt, sifted it in his palms, checked for dampness and rot. He pointed out trickles where hidden water seeped through disturbed rock, spoiling the roots. He showed them how to dig trenches to redirect the flow, how to mend the starved soil. Slowly, as the stress of hunger eased, so too did the villagers' suspicion. It was during these months that Elias heard talk of the relic. A gift from the gods, they called it. A thing so sacred none dared approach save for the village elders and the priest. It was kept beneath the central shrine, guarded by rituals older than memory. Life in the village was never truly easy, but for a moment it seemed almost hopeful. Flowers emerged along the riverbanks. Trees that had threatened to wither sent out new green leaves. Children, recently solemn, sang again in the streets as the tremors faded to gentle shivers. But relief was short-lived. One night, a quake shook the entire village, a deep, thrumming agony that splintered beams and shattered windows. The mountain moaned as if wounded. Elias worked with the villagers through the night, bandaging wounds, reinforcing walls, reciting steady reassurance to quell the rising fear. But as dawn approached, he could not subdue a relentless suspicion in his mind. When the first light brushed the mountain tops, Elias awoke with a certainty born of sleepless calculation. He asked permission to visit the shrine. The priest, a gaunt figure crowned with suspicion, bristled at the request. His eyes, narrowed with centuries of inherited mistrust, watched Elias as though expecting sorcery. With the reluctant blessing of the elders, Elias entered the dark heart of the shrine. There, beneath heavy cloth and layered votive offerings, he found the relic, a fractured vessel of stone and ancient metal, humming softly as if alive. Fitful blue light trembled along its seams, a pale, sickly glow hotter than any candle. Ancient markings covered its surface, symbols now worn indistinct by generations of worshipful touch. Elias frowned. He knelt, ran his hands over the artifact, and listened, not with faith, but with the ears of understanding. Whatever miracle the villagers attributed to this relic, his sharp mind saw only hazard. This was technology of extraordinary antiquity. A failed machine, cracked and unstable, resonating with furious energy directly beneath the village. It explained the earthquakes, the failing crops, the sickness in the land. Knowledge, for Elias, was both a blessing and a burden. He realized, for the first time, that the time left for this village was vanishing quickly. Each tremor was a warning, each aftershock a countdown. He tried first to explain to the elders, "Your sacred relic is dangerous, not because the gods are angry, but because it is broken, and the energy inside is trying to escape. If we do not relieve the pressure, it will erupt, and there will be nothing left of this village, or of anyone in it." The elders listened with the guarded patience of those who have outlived certainty. The priest, however, grew rigid with opposition. "You speak in riddles and heresy," he spat. "The artifact is the source of our protection, not our peril. You would dismantle our faith and our home." Knowing there was no time for debate, Elias begged for a chance to work. "Let me try. If I fail, you may cast me out, but if I succeed, the quakes will stop." Torn between tradition and survival, the elders relented, casting troubled glances at the priest, who withdrew into shadows, muttering prayers. Elias began his work with trembling hands and a mind sprinting ahead of disaster. The relic was intricate. Sabotage was never its intent, but time and neglect had made the device a hazard in every way. He improvised, drawing upon fragments of knowledge and analogies from forgotten texts, building makeshift tools from farm implements and tattered cloth. The villagers watched him warily from the doorway, silent and still. As Elias opened the relic, a deep tremor shuddered through the cavern. The energy inside, unspooled for a moment, surged dangerously close to critical mass. The light flared and fissured, bolts of pale blue caressing the ceiling, shaking the very heart of the shrine. Outside, the crowd gasped and fell to their knees. The priest seized the moment, raising his voice to the wind. "See what the blasphemer has wrought. He has provoked the wrath of that which keeps us safe." Fear is an old and simple thing. It spreads faster than understanding. A single voice can turn a crowd into a mob. But Elias had already passed the point of no return. He worked with desperate precision, isolating the failing components, redirecting flows, stabilizing the sequence using the scraps at hand. Each second was a brush with annihilation, every breath a defiance of the odds. When it was done, the relic sputtered and fell quiet. The dangerous light faded. The tremors halted, replaced by a stillness so profound it felt like the world exhaling. Elias, exhausted, stained with sweat and soot, slumped beside the inert machine, relief flooding through him. Outside, a hush had fallen. The ground, which had bucked and twisted beneath their feet for so long, was now silent. A soft rain fell, drawing the petrichor of earth into the dawn air. But the peace was poisoned by suspicion. The priest seized the silence as vengeance. He has interfered with the sanctity of the gods. If our village has been spared, it is through their mercy, not his meddling. The elders, still reeling from fear, nodded. It was safer to believe in the old order than in a stranger's troubling truths. By midday, the verdict was delivered. Elias was found guilty of desecration and of bringing danger to their doorstep. They would not listen to his explanations. The comfort of tradition outweighed the unease of new knowledge. Elias was taken to a small cell beneath the gathering hall. The same stone walls that had shielded so many before him now closing in cold and silent. He sat alone, his mind replaying every decision, every moment spent earning the villagers' trust. Every night he had stood among them as the tremors threatened their way of life. He wondered at the cruelty of fate, that in saving these people he might yet perish at their hands. Above, the village was a storm of doubt. Some wept for Elias in secret, recalling his patient kindness, the fields he had healed, the calm he brought during chaos. Others turned away, unwilling to risk the ire of gods or priest. As the hour of his execution approached, a ceremony meant to calm the wrath they believed he had provoked, the sky grew heavy. Cracks in the rock from the previous tremor had widened unnoticed, deepening like wounds beneath the surface. Those who stood watch by the shrine heard a low groan, the mountain shifting, eerily familiar. Without warning, a violent aftershock surged through the valley, tossing the villagers like toys. The shrine's doors burst open. The ancient relic, once inert, juddered briefly, then split in two, a harmless shell emptied of power. No divine fury, no retribution from above. Just stone and the failed device lying exposed to all. A roar echoed from beneath the earth, but stopped short, subdued. The threat was gone. The villagers, rising unsteadily, stared at the relic with new eyes. In seconds, the truth overturned centuries of belief. The priest, sensing the shift, tried to recover. "A final test," he said, voice breaking. "A sign that the gods are satisfied only now." But the evidence was unassailable. Young and old alike saw the relic for what it was, not a treasure, but a time bomb diffused at the brink by the one they had condemned. Word swept through the village in a hushed wave. Guilt tangled with relief. Anger battled with shame. A group of villagers, led by the children Elias had saved, joined by those whose fields he had healed, whose families he had comforted, pushed forward. They demanded Elias's release. The elders gathered under the weight of an unfamiliar responsibility. "He saved us," one old woman declared, "not by mercy of the gods, but by knowing the truth we would not see." Elias was freed, battered by hours in the cold dark but upright. The villagers clustered around him in uncertain gratitude, their faith shaken like the mountains themselves. Some approached, eyes wet. "We owe you our lives," they murmured. Elias brushed away the thanks with tired gentleness. "What matters now is what you choose to believe, not in gods or strangers, but in your own strength, your own understanding." The priest retreated, his authority dissolving, his power unmoored from the relic it had anchored. In time, his name faded from memory, as such names do. But Elias stayed, not as a hero, not as a martyr, but as a neighbor. He continued to teach, sharing knowledge not as an outsider, but as one of their own. The story of the relic became a lesson for the children, a tale of humility, of listening with open hearts and open minds. And so the mountains stood, silent witnesses to the new age begun not by divine lightning, but by the bravery of inquiry, the courage to face the unknown, and to recognize, however late, the gift of truth among us.